May we come to order. This is the regular meeting of the Garrett Park Town Council for June 2025. The first order of business is approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of adopting the agenda as circulated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is the consent agenda. There's just one item, which is the approval of the May 12, 2025 Town Council meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any discussion? Not because it's a consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Opposed? Very good. We will move to presentations by residents. Are there any residents who wish to address the council? No. Good. So, good. We're moving right along, and that leads us to the approval of town hall elevations and site plan for the historic area work permit submission to Montgomery County Planning. As you know, the restoration of this 19th century portion of town hall and renovation of the rear have been moving along. And because this is an individually designated historic structure within the county historic district, we need to obtain a so-called historic area work permit that the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission will hear that. It involves largely, if not exclusively, the exterior portions of the plans. And in that connection, you've received a copy of the current site plan and elevations for the design development phase to date. And I would like to invite first, Barbara, did you have anything to add?
No, nothing additional.
So Greg, if you would let us know your thoughts and what is necessary from this point onward, please.
Members of the council, those that are new to the council, I'm Greg Wiedemann of Wiedemann Architects, and I'm here with Gabby Casilio, who has been with me for many, many years. And she has been working with me on the design development phase of this project. So I'm going to turn it over to Gabby to share initially the site plan and then move into the exterior views.
Can everybody see the site plan?
Just
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you want me to start, Greg, or?
yes, please.
Okay. So we just wanted to present recent changes to the design development drawings. This is the site plan. We changed the drawings based on feedback from sub-consultants and also from the town. So one of the things that we did was here in the front yard to reduce the visibility of the longer ramp that we were previously showing, we wanted to shorten it. And we did that by raising the grade from this east property line up onto the ramp. And we raised it to 1/4 inch per slope. For the slope, 1/4 inch per foot. And the 1/4 inch would probably stop here at this planting bed, where it would then be 1/8 inch slope, and that's so that the grade sits just under the historic water table. This allows this gathering space here to be a little bit more unified for community events. So that's one of the changes that we did. We were also showing an underground electric lines here on the southern part, this red line that's dashed over here. There's an existing electrical pole on the southeast side of the property, I think an adjacent property. And so as a result, we're going to have the electric meter here on the south side of this storage room. So the electric meter and the electric panel will be in this area. So we've relocated it from its existing location over here in the parlor. This allows then for the parlor to remain as is, the original historic space. I think that was pretty much for the site plan. I'm going to move into the first floor unless, did you want to add anything, Greg, to the site plan?
Oh, just one thing that I wanted to add, which is when Gabby was talking about a 1/4 of an inch per foot slope, that's a normal slope for what most people think of as a level surface. So, but over a period of or a distance, as indicated there, it does afford a shortening of the ramp.
Right. Previously, the ramp, I think, extended almost to this dash line. So it's, less visible from the street. Okay.
So this is Phil Schulp. I do have a question for you. Do you think there's going to be enough room to get that pipe or that electric line in from the street down the side of the building? Because the way I looked at it a few minutes ago, it looked like we could, I don't know, damage somebody's shrubs or trees over there. It looks kind of tight, but maybe you could do it.
I believe it's actually drawn a little bit too far south in
Yeah.
the sketch. It's going to be located, well onto the property. And I think there's about a 3-foot space between the fence and the southern part of the historic building.
Here.
We'll investigate that further and discuss it with the civil engineer to make sure that is feasible. And but I understand the concerns, but we would be far enough away, we believe, from those trees to not injure them.
Sounds good. I mean, the other thought I had was running it through bringing it up to the front of the old building and then just using conduit and running it the rest of the way inside the building.
Right. I guess we would do that if necessary. Or if there was other extenuating circumstances that would suggest that running it along the southern property line was not possible. That's a good suggestion, though.
Okay, so in the first floor plan, as you can see, we've maintained the parlor. We did relocate these existing pair of doors, and that was so that we can have deep counters on both sides. The doors are a little bit further south, the existing ones, which only allowed for shallow storage. So this makes it symmetrical on both sides. Let's see, we are also increasing here in the south hall the openings, and this is to meet egress. So this door opening and over here where the stair is from the parlor is 36 inches wide, and that's to comply with egress code.
Let me interrupt there and ask, is there no door on the other side, on the parlor side of that?
Here, there's no door.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what else. We also I think we were previously showing a portable ramp with framing underneath the stage. We are now showing a wheeled portable ramp stored here in the storage closet, since it will only be used for wheelchair accessibility and not for moving the piano. So this allows for the framing to remain as it is. We are also increased this opening over here with a drinking fountain. Zoom in a little bit. Over here to allow better visibility of the drinking fountain from this rear hall.
I'd like to, this is Jerry Lee, I'd like to raise a question about that. I've questioned on multiple occasions that location for the drinking fountain. It just seems like a very, very poor design choice to put it within the doorway of the kitchen. Have you considered any other possible location for the drinking fountain?
Where the bathrooms are.
Yeah, near the bathrooms, in the auxiliary
hall?
room.
Greg, did you know earlier in the schematic phase whether that was discussed?
I guess we could look to see if there are ADA clearances behind this sink right here. I don't know if you see my cursor, but
Not currently.
Behind the kitchen sink or the bathrooms?
bathroom 1 sink.
Over here.
Mhm.
Is there a code requirement or a reason the drinking fountain was there?
Yes, it is a code requirement for a public
have
building.
one.
There's a
And
code requirement to have one, correct? And that there are also clearance requirements for it, right?
that's correct, to meet ADA for accessibility. And we were also specifying a water fountain that is that has a a water bottle fill.
Yeah, which is
And it's-
great. I love that addition, but I just don't think it needs to be adjacent to the kitchen. And to
Right.
have it in the kitchen entryway is very inconvenient to my view.
Sure. Well, we'll certainly see if it will fit. There aren't a whole lot of available walls. But we just need to see if there are clearance problems.
Maybe in the hallway at number 2.
Just
that little house.
unless
Well,
unless anyone on the council has a suggestion. I mean, the serving counters could be shortened.
Right.
That would be one logical area.
And put
Yeah.
it in the kitchen?
no.
No.
Is there a requirement that it be recessed in an alcove as it's shown here?
No, not a bit.
Okay,
But we are showing a drinking fountain that gets recessed into a wall. So
Right.
so that aspect of it, I think, is space saving, rather
Could it
than
go-
having it entirely projecting.
Could it go in between bathroom number 1 and bathroom number 2 in that little hall to that entrance of bathroom number 2?
Yes, that's where I was suggesting, but I have a feeling that the clearance requirements and the projection of the drinking fountain may be a problem
Right.
in that location. It's supposed to be in an accessible location also. So, you know, if you have occasions when the kitchen would be locked off or whatever, it really couldn't be in there. So
I mean, if we shorten this counter,
Yeah.
put it on this wall.
yes,
I was wondering about the same thing because I saw that same spot.
yeah. I think that's probably the best alternative spot and I'm pretty confident that will not cause any clearance issues. And then you could gain maybe more pantry storage or large, unfortunately, we can't make the kitchen larger because we are limited in terms of its square footage.
Because of the warming kitchen code, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I do think either the storage gain or the gain to the rear hall would be worthwhile.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll look at that.
We'll certainly look at that.
no one wants a wet bar? Okay,
An additional change that we did was to this auxiliary room. So in order to have counters on both sides, we increased the auxiliary room over the porch part about almost 2 feet towards the south. So now this makes it symmetrical, which then allowed for us to eliminate the window that was here in the storage room. We've also added a trash and recycling enclosure on the northwest corner. Let's see. I don't think, we don't have an electrical plan, but I think some of the feedback that we got was to add additional outlets in the rear hall counters. So we've added those as well. Okay. I think that was it for the first floor. Now these are the elevations. This is the front east elevation, and we're showing it without shutters, similar to the existing condition. And this is, of course, unless HPC requires that we do have shutters. And if they are required, then we propose having them on this east elevation and only on the north elevation, those two elevations for maintenance issues. We've also we raised this roof cover and made it shallower. It was a little bit more prominent before. So per feedback, we've reduced that. Yeah. The north elevation, we did the same. We did a shallower roof cover over the side door, and we've added one on the rear. We changed this small window here after looking at existing historic photos. We think that the original window here was actually a double hung and not a casement. So that's what we are proposing. On the rear elevation, we are now showing a gable roof instead of the previous shed roof to kind of bring the scale down so that it mimics the gable roofs of the north side, but it has a shallower slope. So it has a little bit more of a human scale. And then we're also showing a roof cover similar to the east and north elevations with brackets.
Question for you. Why was the window on the right side eliminated?
Well, we increased,
Yeah, looking at this elevation.
yeah,
The elevation may appear to be symmetrical, but the wall space on the right
here,
is about 18 inches
Yeah.
less than what's on the left. The thought was you don't really need a window in the storage room. And
there's another one too already.
Yeah.
Here.
Right. Yeah. No, I was just thinking of from a balance point of view, but if nobody else.
Yeah, since they're not
Um,
exactly symmetrical. And it was one
it's-
of the comments we had gotten earlier.
It's worth noting that having a window there would somewhat constrain the uses in the storage room. Not having a window is a small energy savings. And as a practical matter, if you go back here now, what you'll find is that there's a lot of planting on the right side that basically blinds this corner anyway.
Okay.
So the asymmetricality of the windows won't be noted, I think.
And I'd imagine, I'm sure that you looked at changing the grades, that you didn't need the stairs off the back of the,
Well, the grade was only changed in the front.
yeah, but these stairs are what's existing off the back.
it's the same grade change
Yeah.
to the patio. We could reduce the number. I think there would still be at least one step.
Maybe we can bring it.
There'd be 2 steps
Maybe
rather
2
than 3
steps,
steps.
yeah.
We could eliminate 1 step.
Yeah, I think the fewer the better,
Mhm.
just from an accessibility standpoint.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Do
The
we,
civil engineer is going to be doing the final grading plan, and we can pass that information along to him.
Okay.
Okay. On the south elevation, we are now showing possible relocation of electric meter. And we aligned the height of this link, the roof of the link, so that this allows for potential future solar panels if that's what's decided. We are still showing this existing window, which is only visible on the exterior, but has been closed up on the interior, which is, I think, the stages here. So depending on what HPC requires, whether we can remove it or if we just leave it as is. And I think those were
So,
the last changes.
question before you leave that. One is there any reason why we couldn't move the gas meter over the same size as the electric meter?
There is a distance that the gas meter must be from openings and from electric meters.
Right.
We
And
can,
also,
we can look at that, but the gas service is currently coming in on the north side.
yeah, it's somewhere over here. So it's more feasible if it stays on that side, but we
Okay.
can study that.
The other thing I had was, I assume, well, I know from reading that we're not planning on replacing at least the siding on the old chapel portion, and I'm wondering if anybody's looked to see if there's insulation in the walls, and is it worth us replacing the siding or taking it down to get to the insulation? I have to figure that the siding was painted with lead, so that's going to be yet another problem.
Right. Well, in discussions with George, George has reminded us that maintaining this existing siding has been very difficult. That the front siding is the possible only exception to siding that he feels should be removed and replaced in kind. We believe that the Historic Preservation Commission is always interested in keeping as much of the historic fabric as possible, but if the condition of the siding is such that replacement is in order, it typically accepts replacement in kind. So we were gonna.
We can't use hardy plank.
I'm sorry?
We couldn't replace the wood siding with hardy plank.
No,
Okay.
but we're doing that. The addition will be hardy. We're
Oh.
using a cement siding there. What we're doing is we're maintaining a similarity of massing, but at the more detailed scale, there's a clear distinction between new and old. There's a
Right.
different exposure, and it is a cement siding, which will be easier to maintain.
Right.
But the historic building, they're not in favor of replacing it with cement siding.
It's directly analogous to what was done at Penn Place 20 some odd years ago. The addition, the siding is of a different scale and a different material.
Is it still
Whereas-
wood that needs to get painted?
No, well, it needs to get painted from time to time, yes, but I believe it's cementitious.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
The original German siding on the 19th century structure was restored as best was possible, but again, portions had to be replaced. And
Yes.
they were, I believe they were custom milled to meet the old
Yes.
German siding. Is that your recollection?
That is my recollection for Penn Place, but this is a simpler lap siding.
No.
So
Going back to my original question then, is it worth looking at replacing the siding even if it's on the south side because of insulation, if we find there's no insulation in the walls? And, the wrap, your typical building wrap and those sorts of modern improvements.
well, as as you may know, if you remove the sheathing, whether it be diagonal sheathing or hopefully there. So if you remove the siding, a couple of things could happen. You could either see sheathing behind it, which will make it difficult to insulate the cavity. If you remove the sheathing to insulate the cavity from the outside, it's a little complicated from a structural point of view to stabilize the construction during that operation, but it can be done. And it would be possible to put continuous insulated sheathing on top of either the existing sheathing, and then have a drainage plane behind the siding. All of that will pull the trim out. So it has some detailing consequences, but it would improve the energy consumption of the building. Reduce it rather.
And these issues are relevant to the period of construction and not necessary to resolve in terms of the going to the county commission.
That's right. But we could broach the subject with the staff and just see what their opinion is. I would think that they might resist it from the exterior, because you'd be disturbing too much of the existing trim. It would be possible. I mean, you have plaster interior. I mean, you could insulate from the interior, but it would be disruptive to the plaster.
Can I just ask it sounds like there would be somewhat of a disruption if I'm hearing it correctly. Is there a concern that we've had with utility bills? Was there something within the insulation that is anomalous and we were looking to address a significant problem, or I'm just coming into this now?
I'm looking at it from the point that maybe there is no insulation there.
Right. And is that reflected in the utility bills? Are they significantly higher than we would expect? I'm just looking because it seems like there would be a fair amount of disruption if we were to go that route, if I'm understanding correctly as a non-architect.
I'm just thinking of it in terms of energy. If we wanted to do anything to claim better energy efficiency, something like that. I mean, I would assume that if there's no insulation, that we really don't know what the bill would be with insulation.
Right.
I mean, somebody could estimate it, I suppose, but.
As the owner of a 100-year-old home myself, it's a complicated question, because when you insulate, the building doesn't breathe the way it did originally. And unless you remove the siding and have a good ventilation behind it, you can create some moisture issues that will perpetuate this problem with the paint peeling. But so
Fair enough.
yeah, I mean, it would be good to know utility consumption. Certainly, we're going to well insulate the addition, so it will definitely be improved from what we currently have with the rear addition.
I believe in the attic there is insulation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to inquire. Thanks.
Yeah.
Can you help me understand the implication of the under site plan, the last sentence, the grade shall be raised 1/8 per foot in front of buildings so the grade is below historic water table trim. We'll discuss further with civil engineers. That's something that would potentially hold up the permitting process, or are you feeling like that's just a discussion that needs to be had to?
No. What that's referring, Gabby, can you go to the larger site plan?
Oh,
Or the front elevation, I guess, either one. But, so what that's referring to is that since we are trying to raise the grade up to where this dark shading is,
Uh-huh.
by about 1/4 of an inch per foot,
Mhm.
that's a good just drainage slope toward the street. And you wouldn't have any standing water. 1/8 of an inch per foot is pretty flat, but we don't want to continue that up and have the trim at the bottom of the front facade
Over here.
buried underground. So that's the challenge. That wood all along there is very close to grade in many instances. That's all. It's just a management. It may be that when the grading plan is developed, that a site drain is added in that area and to carry the water away from the building. And the 1/8 inch per foot is not the final solution. We're just raising the issue with the engineer that will be doing the grading plan.
There's that one photograph that was taken during the construction of the building. I wonder if it gives any indications of what the sheathing might be.
Ah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Uh,
You're talking
it's for
about-
later, but, and the other,
Yes.
That was a photograph.
Is that the photograph, Chris?
yes,
Yeah.
it's the only one we really have.
Yeah.
Well,
So.
it's conceivable that what you're looking at is actually the siding applied directly to the studs.
Right. I think that was the situation with Penn Place.
Yeah, it's not uncommon in this period.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and I would just make one further observation for the council. The application to the Historic Preservation Commission will seek the plans as shown here with no shutters. The historical record is ambiguous. There are photographs that show the building with shutters and without. And none of them are early enough to tell definitively how it was actually at the time of its completion. But for maintenance and other ongoing issues, we would prefer not to have shutters.
And right now it doesn't have shutters.
Right now, it does not. On the front. But we need to be open to dealing with the staff in terms of their views about that.
Right.
As this is a new version of the plan, as I understand it, is there a budget associated with this version yet?
No, not really.
Okay.
There will be, part of the design development phase scope does include a cost estimates, so that.
So that's sort of the next part of the
Correct,
next.
correct.
Yeah,
I
we're
think,
working toward that for this, for September, essentially.
Yeah,
Because if does it, if we go through the process of the historic preservation permitting, but then have to make any changes to this, does that then restart the process of permitting, or I don't know a whole lot about that process. So once you're kind of permit granted, you can make some variations within the scope of that permit.
Well, the Maryland Historic Trust took no exception to this when we submitted drawings to them in connection with the state bond application, which was encouraging.
Yeah.
They tend to be stricter than the County Historical Preservation Commission. About 18 months ago, we had informal discussions with staff, and they were enthusiastic about what we were proposing. So we're not anticipating difficulty in getting approval. Some of these details they may have strong opinions about, and we can find out. But essentially, the process is that you apply for what's called a historic area work permit, which is basically a certificate of appropriateness for the historic district. And that is a precondition for obtaining a building permit at the county.
Yep.
So sometimes the historic area work permit will have requirements that require that you go back to them and show them revised plans. Sometimes they comment and say, we love it, but we disagree with these things. And if you change those things, then we'll be fine. They have an opportunity to see the final permit drawings. It's a separate but related process. When we submit for the building permit, they look at the commission looks at the drawings, compares it to the approved set of drawings, and basically says, yes, this is what the commission said was appropriate.
Thank you.
So,
That's helpful.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the HPC is sort of independent from the permit process, but a precondition to it.
Got it.
Mhm.
If we go back to the floor plan, I have a question. It looks like on these, you call it the side hall 104, which is basically the passageway from the stage area to the parlor. So I understand that you'll be eliminating the door that currently is there
Yes.
or not?
Well, that's what we're currently, so as you may know, Gabby, can you identify the area of the plan where the current door is near Bath 1?
Oh,
Off the
this area
stage.
right here?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So right there's a door
Correct.
that's labeled as the exit. The other
Right.
door that's labeled as the exit is this door there into the foyer. And those two doors were chosen because of their separation. You may know that there's a rule about the separation between the two required exits from an area of public assembly, and it relates to the dimension of the diagonal of the public space. So, unfortunately, the double door, which probably is the door that most people use to enter and exit, is not an exit, and it is not sufficiently distant from the one into the foyer.
Right.
So
Close together.
we have to provide another exit. And
This one.
that's what we're doing now.
Right.
And it, depending on the population, the door needs to swing in the direction of exit.
Right.
If the population is under 49 people, it could swing in the opposite direction. We could look at the possibility of putting the door on the other side so that it's closed off from the parlor. And
I was just asking about that one that currently is there at the top of those stairs. I assume that's being eliminated for code reasons.
well, it can't swing out. I mean, it can't
Right.
swing out over a stair because you'd have to have a landing. It could
Okay.
swing. It could swing in,
Mhm.
but then the other door would either have to be eliminated off the stage.
Right.
So, and we do have the change in level to contend with. So, that's the reason there's no door between the side hall and the parlor.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. There's also been some discussion about this large gray area that is pochade there. That's a chimney, but we felt that it was best just to leave that in place, that the additional floor area and all the complications of removing it, it's no longer functioning as part of the heating system, I guess. So that will remain, so that the main hall will not change in terms of its floor plan.
Anything further for Greg Wiedemann? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve for submission to the County Historic Preservation Commission in
I'll make
support of an application for an historic area work permit, the site plans and elevations currently before us.
Oh, before we do that, how can we frame this to incorporate any changes that they've agreed to today?
What
What
change?
exterior changes have we agreed to?
I don't know that we've made any exterior changes.
Those are the only things that the
Other than the stairs, you talked about looking at that in the back.
right.
Right, and the drinking fountain.
But-
Reducing
And
number.
the drinking fountain is an interior change.
Right. So they don't have jurisdiction. And the Maryland Historic Trust could have had an interior easement, but they chose not to require that. So there's no jurisdiction over interior changes. So it's purely the exterior, and we're keeping, of course, the floor level the same throughout the addition and the historic building. So that sets a certain level. So when you go to the auxiliary room, there'll be a step out of the door, and then there could either be 3 risers or 2 risers, but there'll be
There's no step here right now. This is all the same.
I'm sorry, yes. But there are 3 risers down. It could possibly be reduced to 2.
Out to the garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
The landing is at the level of the room
Yes,
and
Yeah.
the steps are beyond.
yes.
And I, in an effort to just save both time and money rather than re-executing a new west elevation, can we simply file for future reference in our own little minds the notion of keeping it to 2 risers instead of 3?
I don't
Yes,
think-
mean, that won't be an issue for the Historic Preservation
Yeah, it
Commission.
shouldn't be
Which
an
seems
issue.
unlikely because it's part of the addition.
Right,
That's right. I wouldn't think that type of change would matter.
okay. All right, with those clarifications, it has been moved, and do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion? Any further comments? There, I'll call for the vote on approving the elevations and site plan for submission to the County Historic Preservation Commission. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now.
you very
as
much.
part-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have the next item is authorization for a change order. Barbara, do you want to summarize that? The general, to my way of thinking, the general principle involved here is that it will assist in keeping the momentum going by approving this change order so that the subcontractor is addressing both design development phase and construction development phase issues. Is that correct?
This is Ad Tech Engineers.
Yes.
Yes.
Is
So
that, is
there
that
is-
a fair layman's
Yes.
summary?
That is correct.
Okay. And.
They make submittals to the Maryland Park and Planning Commission, Fire Department access, stormwater management approval. So if they could develop those drawings and get those approvals, it will not delay the permit process, because they often take the longest.
Barb, it's unclear to me from reading the memo, what is the change order? Was AdTech not part of the original contract and we're adding the it in
No,
full?
no, AdTech is the civil engineer, subconsultant to Wiedemann Architects. The original design development phase proposal with Wiedemann only had all the subconsultants doing design development work. So what is being proposed is that AdTech would be cut loose to basically do construction drawing work. That's the part of the change order. So it would add $30,900 to the current contract with Wiedemann.
Is that something that Wyman doesn't do in their scope of work?
I'm sorry, Lisa?
That's right. For commercial work, we rely on a civil engineer to do that work. It includes utility work, connections to the sewer, new water lines for the sprinkler and things like that. So that's not normally our scope.
And because we're sprinklering the building, we may need a larger water supply line. Is that correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Now, are some of the things, like if I look at it's on, I'll probably call it the fourth page, where they talk about a basic scope of services. There's a number of things like geotechnical report, site photometrics, fire lane order, all those things. Are those already accounted for somewhere, or do we need to account for that?
Well, the geotechnical report is part of the design development scope. We had soil borings already. We had percolation tests that are needed in order to do the stormwater management. So another consultant, geotech engineers, has done that work and has prepared a report that AdTech then uses in the design of the stormwater management. If there are particular exclusions in the AdTech contract that concern you, I can ask about those. I don't have, I'm sorry, I don't have the contract right in front of me, but be
So
happy
this
to do
Want me
that.
to share it or?
The ad tech
Yeah,
scope
could you do
work
that?
wasn't
Yeah.
included in the original contract documents or budget, is that correct?
That's not what I heard Barb say. I thought Barb said that the design development was, but not the construction drawing.
That's correct.
That is correct.
So if we look at page,
So all the things here under design phase are being provided under the current contract. But
Yeah, this.
they are not final drawings for filing. So
okay,
all of those things, 1 through 8, are
Mhm.
being provided in the design development phase. The change
okay,
order,
so the change order is for everything listed under the construction documents phase?
That's correct.
correct.
Okay, and then looking at page 3, the next page down, Barb, does
Which-
that mean that the original contract covered the 23,100 under design development?
Correct.
And the
Correct.
construction documents phase is listed here as 28,100. So,
Correct.
but
And
you're asking us to approve the
Any
30.
30,900. Anytime you have a subconsultant, then the architect is, there's some oversight of their work.
Okay, so that includes the architect's
Correct.
oversight fees.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
I just wanted to understand how the numbers all fit together.
That's correct. It's a 10% premium for going under us, basically. We carry their insurance and things.
Anything further? All right, I will entertain a motion to authorize change order number 1 to the contract with Wiedemann Architects for design development phase services for town hall renovation in the amount of $30,900. Do I hear such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. I think that does it, Greg.
Yes,
Is- Are the, but let me not assume that. Does anyone have any further questions while we have Mr. Wiedemann?
I do, but I can address it offline. It just had to do with the reuse of the HVAC equipment. I have been looking into it a little bit and I've got some questions on that, but I can write something up and give it to Barb to send over to you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Also,
Thank
Gabby,
you.
thank you for
Yeah.
yours.
So Greg,
Great.
what's your schedule for 50% working drawings now being completed?
Uh, We're aiming for completing our work in August and getting the estimate to present to the council in September.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Um, the next item is, adoption of the resolution
No.
number 2025-2, thanking Councilmember Stephen Paskowski for his service to the town.
Mayor
Uh,
Tower, were you
is that
were you
circulated?
skipping ordinance number 2025-5?
Oh, sorry, I skipped. In my haste to stay on time. Sorry. Ordinance number 2025-5, amending chapter 4 of the town code to update building permit procedures and add other procedural requirements, was introduced last month. To tee this up for discussion, I will ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number 2025-5 as introduced.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion from the council? All right,
I do have one thing that I'm a little concerned with. And that is the ability to put in, replace a fence, an existing fence on a corner lot where the fence might be too high. In other words, right now, a corner lot has two fronts. And if you think of that, then that means that only a 4-foot high fence can be put on either of the two fronts. There's a house that's, that I know of at least one where they put up a privacy fence that is probably 6.5 foot tall. That if for some reason, they had to replace it, they wouldn't be able to. They'd only be able to put up a 4-foot tall fence because of the requirement to have of 2 front yards. So I'm wondering if it's possible that they could grandfather in existing fences, because right now it specifically says that you would have to rebuild it to the new 4-foot high.
That's correct, because the intent of that is to prevent site obstructions at a corner.
Right, but in this case, the fence is set so far back. I mean, it's the one on Waverly there, it's that brick house right on the corner in their side yard. They've got a privacy fence that's set. Oh, Christ, it's gotta be at least 20 feet back because they parked their cars in front of it. And so I would think that that would fall underneath this front yard thing. And I'm thinking that for somebody who has something like that, it would be good if they could replace it in kind. Not necessarily meaning that we have to have all new ones. I'm just saying that for somebody who's enjoying this privacy, that they'd be able to do it. where it's not blocking or obstructing the view of any motor vehicles or pedestrians.
Um, Is it your sense that this is a sufficiently important issue that it needs to be anticipated in the ordinance or could be dealt with by a variance?
A request for a variance.
I mean, if we can do a request for a variance, then yeah, that would do the
Yeah.
trick.
My concern is we're gonna, well, there are two concerns. Fashioning exceptions, grandfather exceptions is sort of difficult as a matter of legislative drafting. And it might be a sufficiently large change that we would have to reintroduce this ordinance for a circumstance that might not arise that often.
Right, I would suspect that to be the case. Although there's another one, similar type deal over on Strathmore, Barbara Scheidler's old house.
I can think
I
of
know.
two other pretty high fences on corner lots as well. But-
It
but
sounds
I-
as though there would be a process.
Yeah, as long as there's a process and the variance process would handle it, that seems reasonable.
As long as we could do it through variance, then yeah, it's fine. You can leave it.
Does the ordinance have to include a provision for a variance, or is that in an
No, the-
overriding?
That's an overriding provision.
Okay.
Remind me, however, do we charge for an application for a variance?
Believe
No,
Do you remember what it is?
we might want to fiddle instead with fee schedule for variants that essentially seek to memorialize a grandfathering or something of that nature,
Mhm.
rather than agonizing over incorporating it in the ordinance.
Well, I'm fine with the variance. I mean, I'm not so worried about the fee. It's just to be able to put the fence back again.
Yeah,
If
they'd
we're-
still have to worry about convincing you to grant the variance, but we would
Right.
try to pose as few hurdles in that respect as possible.
Right.
Does that sound like a
It sounds fair enough.
fair solution?
Seems
Okay.
I had a
So-
question, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I had another question.
Yes.
I just wondered from Barb and Kayla if there have been any comments or questions from community members about this ordinance since it was introduced?
No, I've not received any.
Thank you.
If there is no further discussion from the council, I would open it up to the floor. Any residents in attendance who might wish to comment on this ordinance. To just this proposal. Did you, I'm sorry, did you?
Sorry, it's Donna Douglas,
Yes.
I live on Claymont Place. I just wanted to thank the council for going over and proposing the ordinance. I live in between two houses that are in process. One much more than the other. And there's been a number of issues that have not had any space for remediation. One of which being silt fencing and overflow of water. We've had a lot of rain in the last number of days and continuously silt just streams in from the building, the construction zone next door. And to the point where my daughter actually slipped and fell on some of the mud. It's really, really fine. It's like ice skating. And it posed a hazard, but there was nothing I could really do. I've tried speaking to the builder, which I assume got the owner involved, and also the county. And my choices were limited as to, or actually non-existent, as to what could be done and what I could ask or request. Seeing those who are like the construction hours, also they all hours of the night, 8 o'clock, still evening time, they're still banging away there, which I was surprised at. but we didn't have an ordinance for, time to, have building, hours. As well as trash, a number of things, which I was surprised at, because I thought perhaps that was something standard when it came to building, but apparently not. So this will, assist in much of that, so, I want to thank the council for taking it under consideration and making it so, encompassing, and Mayor Keller also for spearheading and being really on ball with coming up with ideas and support for figuring out what to do when it came to any mud, rain, construction, what have you. Now, the thing is, I have to wait till the other side also starts to go, so this is really good timing, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your
Thank you.
comments.
If there's no further discussion, we can call the question on adoption of ordinance number 2025-5. Anything further?
I just had a quick wording question. It's just me on page 9, G, swimming pools. A swimming pool must not be located. Would it be shall not be, or is must considered the same?
I think it's considered the same. This language was drafted by the town attorney.
Oh, okay. Enough said. Thanks.
All right. Unless there's anything further, we'll move to the question. I call for a vote on the adoption of ordinance number 2025-5, amending chapter 4 of the town code. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Now we will move to the resolution thanking Stephen Paskowski for his service and his time on the council. It has been circulated in your agenda, in your meeting packet. I will summarize it by saying that during his 4 terms on the council, Stephen made significant contributions, most especially in the initial stages of the current efforts to restore and rehabilitate and renovate the structure that we are currently sitting in, starting with a comprehensive and really definitive write-up of the history of Town Hall in 2018, several town meetings. And he brought that same vision and his architectural skills to other projects in town, and most recently was particularly enthusiastic about the renovation of the Cambria Park ball field. Our conclusion is that Councilmember Paskowski has been both a colleague and a friend, admired and respected by the mayor, his colleagues on the town council, the employees of the town of Garrett Park, and town residents. I will therefore entertain a motion to adopt
I would
the
like,
resolution.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution honoring former council member Stephen Paskowski.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, of course not. And we'll see that he gets that with a bottle of wine or something.
Can I
Uh,
just ask a question, Mayor? Has anybody responded to your request for people to help with the town hall?
One person did, and I've consulted with them informally. We may revisit the need to find someone with actual architectural credentials to help us,
Okay, so we're just waiting to do that.
pretty much,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
The consensus was that as I understood it, that the immediate steps for the design development phase are pretty much at a point where we don't need that kind of input.
Thank you.
We move next to introduction of ordinance number 2025-6, adding section 114 to the town code and establishing a Parks Advisory Committee as a committee by ordinance. Barbara, would you like to kick that
Sure,
off?
Thank you. So as you all know, this matter was discussed at your meeting in May. The drafting of the initial ordinance was prompted by Councilmember Max's request at the meeting on April 14th. You all discussed a number of issues at your meeting in May. So included in your agenda packet, there's a clean version of the ordinance as it stands today for your consideration for introduction. In attachment 2, I have provided a copy reflecting the changes that have been made since your last discussion. Those changes include an update of the town code reference that was cited in the ordinance. I think as most of you know, we are currently going through a recodification process that is lagging your consideration of this ordinance. So we needed to insert a currently available version of a section of the town code. You had considerable discussion at your May meeting about the committee membership criteria. I have tried to factor those in. You'll see the changes once again in attachment 2. And I do want to thank Councilmember Stroud for kind of kicking around some wording with me. And what you see in here reflects the outcome of that discussion. The adjunct membership provisions remain, but they have been revised to be less narrowly focused. As you likely recall, there was a lot of discussion about kind of youth adjunct membership. And lastly, the other change was there was an extraneous reference related to committee membership that has been removed. I also wanted to note that one of the issues you discussed on May 12th was whether the town code includes a definition of open spaces. It does not. Just to note for the record, as currently drafted, ordinance number 2025-6 does include several references to open spaces. So at this juncture, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but the ordinance is basically available for your consideration, whether to introduce it this evening or if you desire further changes, we can certainly make those.
So one change, I don't know if it got lost or not, was to change it to be Parks and Open Space Committee.
No, I did not forget. You expressed a desire, Councilmember Schultz, for the name of the committee to be changed. Mayor Keller explained his reasoning, which was to somewhat keep it shorter. And the mayor's point of view was echoed by Councilmember Deutsch. And the rest of the members were silent. So for the time being, I just left it as it was originally phrased and as recommended by Mayor Keller.
Okay, because I mean, it's historically known by that and it does encompass, and its responsibilities would encompass that. And so for that reason, I thought it'd be more descriptive.
A question for the mayor on that. Is it your thought that informally it would still be known as the Parks and Open Space Committee, POSCO, or at least the POSCO name?
They can call themselves the Ida Sullivan Committee, but yes, of course. The notion was just, and I don't want to make too much of it because it isn't really that major, but it helps differentiate this. This is a different committee in the sense that it's now established by ordinance with all that implies, plus and minus. And the title really has no legal effect. I think the text of the ordinance itself makes it clear that they can and should address open spaces as well.
Thank you.
Okay, to tee this up for further discussion, if I can have a motion to introduce.
Make a motion to introduce.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there further council discussion?
I guess my only question is, what is the process to have the people on the existing POSCO committee apply for this committee, or how is that process? Because we have a very good
well, they
committee of
can-
active people who I think might have an interest in continuing to serve.
And they can apply to do so.
Okay.
And the fact that they have experience born of years on the committee will of course be taken into account.
Okay, thank you.
But keep in mind the terms are staggered, so it does have to reset.
Right,
We can't just continue on.
right.
Okay,
One thing I didn't see was, we talk about the committee's membership reflecting the diverse users of the town's parks and open spaces, including, and it talks about everything but dogs. Or pets might be a better way of looking at it. And I would think that, that should be included because that is a significant user group of our parks and open space.
You mean of the people who serve on the,
No, this is on C. Well, I guess, yeah, you
Yeah.
could say, yes, you're right.
I think that's a good idea, Phil. I think we could add under C with that list there, including families with young children, teenagers, adults, and seniors. We could put instead of the and after seniors and put and pets,
pet owners?
Pet owners, yep.
pet owners.
We don't want the
Mhm.
pets on the.
Well, it says families
I'm
with
teasing.
pets. It's the way I was seeing that play out.
anything further from the council? All right, I have 2 points to raise. Number one, continuing along that same section, there's a period after seniors. So that laundry list is one where every effort should be made to reflect the laundry list. The next sentence says committee membership shall be reflective. And then there's an additional laundry list. I'm a little concerned that, putting aside the pragmatic likelihood that this will actually be raised, but I'm concerned that from an analytic standpoint, the shell introduces a considerably higher threshold. And if, for example, no one from the south side puts their name forward and the committee is formed without that geographic representation, is it in violation of the statute? I would be more comfortable, although it becomes a grammatical nightmare, of just continuing on after pet owners and saying, and striking committee membership shall, reflective of the town's demographics. In other words, those would still be modified by every effort shall be made to ensure, rather than making it a statutory requirement.
You could just make the shall a may.
Or should.
I think may is a little too loose.
Okay.
You could also do that like the second sentence could just be reconstructed to be every effort shall be made to ensure that committee membership is reflective. So that you could still have two separate sentences and not have one gargantuan sentence. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I think-
Okay, so duplicating
The construction in the second sentence,
should be made rather than shall.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, every effort should be made
Okay,
to ensure that the committee membership is reflective.
okay. I will need a motion to amend.
I'll make an emotion to amend the current language in two ways. One, adding pet owners to the list under paragraph C. And then also amending the second, the sentence about committee membership to reflect the same construction for every effort should be made to.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right,
May I
And-
ask a logistical question before we just
No.
forgive my naivete? Does the amendment and submission of those amendments, does that push back? Is it still introduced? Or is everything moved to the July meeting? I guess
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
no, no.
asking.
Well,
This
the-
doesn't move us back
No.
30 days.
It doesn't have to be
No.
reintroduced.
No.
Right, okay.
no,
So
no,
it's
We're
introduced,
actually first introducing it tonight.
right?
as amended.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll just be introduced
No.
as
it shouldn't-
amended.
it
Okay.
Shouldn't affect.
Thank
that.
you. I appreciate it.
Mayor, I have a question. Do we need a head of this committee or do you designate someone?
That's a separate issue.
Is that part of?
That's a
the-
separate issue. It's been moved and seconded to amend. Will the movement and seconder of the motion accept that amendment as a friendly amendment? To obviate the need of a vote?
We don't have a second on record. We have Councilmember Bennett's motion to introduce and then
Oh, we
the
didn't
proposed
get a
language.
second on
If we
the-
could have a second, please.
Second.
Did not get a second on the basic motion?
No second amendment?
All right.
Now we-
And do those who moved and seconded the ordinance accept the amendment? It just obviates a vote. Okay, thank you.
That was between you and.
All right.
Chris.
Now, I would like to.
Accept our amendment as friendly.
You're-
Friendly.
Always.
Um, I would like to suggest the deletion of subsection G. G is in George. At the last meeting, I, based on inadequate reflection, suggested the creation of an adjunct category for purposes of adequately incorporating the views of youngsters. I think once we remove that, there's no real need for an adjunct. It creates a two-tier system within the committee of people who have one-year appointments and three-year appointments. Unlike some other committees where highly specialized expertise in historic preservation, for example, from someone outside the town might be desirable. I think the Parks Committee is more clearly focused on just the town and will not have a need for adjunct membership as such. It might occasionally want to reach outside the committee for expertise, but a whole additional category of adjunct membership is not, in my view, necessary, but I would like to hear your views. And in the event you agree with that, we would have a motion to delete subsection G. Any thoughts?
Well, I would move to delete subsection G
All right.
because I agree with you.
Is there a second to get it?
I'll second.
All right, it's teed up for discussion. Is there any discussion? All right. Well, will the movement and seconder of the core motion accept this as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded, and there have been two amendments. Is there further discussion on the ordinance proposed for introduction from the council? All right. Incidentally, Lisa, in answer to your question, the committee is empowered to select their own
I
chair,
saw that.
and
Thank you.
they do that later. Okay. If there's no further discussion from the council, I'll ask if there are any residents who wish to address it.
Jack Brindell, 11314 Road. Always going to be known as Pasco. We are Pascoians. I did have one small suggestion on H1.
Excuse me, can we ask Jack to speak more directly into the mic so those of us online can hear?
Is the mic not on? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, just really close. Very good.
Sorry. On section H1, duties of the council, large part of what we do on POSCO, what we're trying to figure out is the prioritization of the use of parks and open spaces, not just what to do with them, but also how to introduce them and what order you're recommending to the council that we think that this that the town believes that this area is a much higher priority than this area, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would introduce the term prioritization in there somewhere. That's a recommendation. The reason I thought possibly not to get rid of section G, Mayor, and I thought possibly this is where you were going with that, was if we wanted to do this really effectively, I'm not sure who on our committee has outstanding credentials at putting together a survey, for example, and finding somebody from the community who has survey experience and asking them to serve for a period of time. But if you believe that can be done from internally, that's fine. But I think the more important one is on H1 to add the term prioritization.
Would you want to see that specifically as it relates to potential improvements? Or just generally?
Generally, really what, which parks and in what order and we're going to tackle them.
Mhm.
So it's not just the improvement, because there's open spaces, there's parks that are existing, etc. Does that answer the question?
So I would suggest if we're adding in the concept of prioritization, that perhaps we frame it as resource prioritization.
Resource prioritization is a council decision, but I think also in terms of understanding, agreeing with the sense of the community where they will have a prioritization on use as well as resources. I agree, it's ultimately a resource issue, but it's a utility issue, I think, as well as a resource issue.
Well, it could, if it said the committee shall advise the council with respect to and prioritization of town-owned parks and open spaces, would that
Yes.
address?
Fine by me.
Yeah.
Fine by me. I think anywhere in there is going to work for the purposes of POSCO and to satisfy you guys.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, did you capture that? Where do we insert prioritization?
The committee shall advise the council with respect to prioritization of. I probably want to look at that with clear eyes at some point, but that may address the issue raised.
I think it makes sense.
Jack, does that meet your concern?
Elsewhere, I had without the wording unit.
Prioritization and safety.
Whatever you want to know.
We can always can ask the opinion of the town attorney and otherwise revisit the language as long as we keep the word or at least the concept in there strongly. All right? All right. It has been further moved and by Councilmember Deutsch. Was there a second for the insertion of notification? All right. And again, asking the primary movements if there is, if we can consider this a friendly amendment? Yes?
Yeah.
All right.
Insertion of prioritization, correct?
Prioritization. Yes.
Just want to be.
All right. So as moved and with the three amendments,
Mayor Keller, we're trying to take notes. Who made the motion to amend with the prioritization and the second? We didn't. Who was the second? Jerry.
Deutsch
Okay,
and
thank you.
Max. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote on introduction of ordinance number 2025-6, adding section 114 to the town code, establishing a Parks Advisory Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We are bang on time. Barbara, would you care to present the town manager's report?
Sure. So included in your agenda packet is the financial report for the month of May. Just a couple highlights. As I mentioned in my May report, we recently purchased a new pickup truck and we sold the old truck for $17,798 on the government auction site Public Surplus. Those proceeds, which were received in May, are recorded in account 5.4, other receipts. Also during the month of May, we made a payment to Empire Landscape for tree pruning, elevation, and deadwood removal, as well as the removal of several small trees. That expenditure shows up in account 13.5, which is trees, parks, and grounds. And lastly, in account 29.1.1, Yendel Park, we made our first payment to Norton Land Design, and that amount totaled $30,400. Are there any other reports, questions about the financial report? If not, I'll just give you an update on a couple projects. I'm sorry.
Question.
Sure.
So the money that was granted for the improvement of the town hall, is that reflected in the budget? Because I didn't see it.
No, it's a reimbursement.
It's a reimbursement, so it will show up when we actually expect to receive the funds.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
we don't have it on hand.
Yeah,
but we're gonna show it in the budget as a source of funds when we're spending money.
right. It'll be, the budget can be amended, with the $500,000, the fiscal year, state fiscal year like ours hasn't even started. And so we have to get through, whatever application awards package. The money's ours, but we have to basically fill out something to go to the Board of Public Works.
But
And
it's very to put it in the budget in some way as a source of funds so that people know that when we're spending money, we have another source of funds to pay for it.
yeah, it can't be put in the budget because that suggests that you all have adopted the budget with, the funding in it. We can put a footnote basically saying that the funding for town hall does not include some kind of footnote maybe on the capital page that funding represents solely the town's funding, and does not include.
It'd be good to have it just clear as a available pot of money that we're gonna spend
Right.
in order to do this work.
Sure.
Thank you.
As mentioned in the report, we were scheduled today for a final inspections for the installation of the fire alarm system replacement at Penn Place. That inspection did take place early this morning and we've made it through all the inspections. So with the exception of paying the vendor once they invoice us, that project will be closed out. And that was an ARPA funded project as a reminder. On this, let's see if I can get my date straight, this Thursday, June 12th, the Montgomery County Planning Board will consider the town's mandatory referral application for Yendel Park. I think you all are aware of this, but mandatory referrals are plans submitted by government entities at all levels for any type of land acquisition, sale, use, or development activity. The mandatory referral was triggered in this case because we were taking what was formerly a residential lot and turning it into a public park. And that review by the planning board is pursuant to the land use article of the Maryland Annotated Code. For the benefit particularly of our newer members, the planning board basically is reviewing mandatory referral applications on an advisory basis. They are not binding on the town. They typically take one of three possible actions. One is basically to approve without comments, approve with comments, or denial. The planning board report, staff report is posted. They have recommended that the planning board approve the town's mandatory referral application with the transmittal of one comment, which was to please consider adding a picnic table to allow for social opportunities and small gatherings.
Who had that suggestion?
That was the Montgomery planning staff
Okay.
is what they are recommending to the planning board.
Good.
On the Waverly Lighting Project, the manufacturer shipment date for the lamp post has been delayed. The current shipment date is anticipated to be August 15th. Our vendor who is helping us with this project, Traffic Systems, has reported that they are seeing similar delays with their other jobs across the state and also in other states that they work in. I did ask them what is the likely time frame for them doing their installation work once they actually receive the materials. And they indicated that it should be within 2 weeks of receipt, depending on their crew availability at the time.
Is the contract subject to change in price due to tariffs?
No, the price was locked in at the time
It is.
we, right.
Okay, good.
Excuse me. Just a couple bill signings by Governor Moore that I wanted to note. On May 20th, the governor signed a technical amendment to state law. As you know, the town of Garrett Park, as well as 10 other Montgomery County, municipalities, had asked for an amendment to state law to continue the limited authority that we have for residential structures. Basically, that regulation ability would be limited to 4-unit structures. And so the governor did sign that bill on May 20th, and the legislation will go into effect on October 1st.
What's the typical turnaround time on accessing funds?
For the next item, for the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was for the
Didn't
technical
show that on
amendment.
here.
Also on May 20th, Governor Moore did sign House Bill 351, which was cross-filed with Senate Bill 320. This is the legislation that authorized the $500,000 in additional funding for the town hall project. Basically, the steps will be, I assume I'll get it closer to July 1st. We will be required to fill out certain paperwork. It's considered a capital grants award package. That then has to be finalized, and that will be reviewed by the staff. And that will basically go to the Board of Public Works. So the ability to do anything with the funding is subject to Board of Public Works approval.
No, does
So
that mean are they?
It depends. I think we've done a lot of the legwork, like the 106 review by the Maryland Historic Trust. Like a lot of governmental entities, they are short-staffed. So we just got that last week.
Yeah.
So in theory, it's the same project. So I don't know whether we will be required to file for another 106 review because it's a different grant award number or not. I'll have to check with the Department of General Services about that. The town is fortunate just through the efforts of, a variety of councils in terms of setting money aside. We have the funding basically
Yeah,
to
it's not
continue
holding up
design,
the-
right? It's not holding
the
up
project.
anything. And then just lastly, just our typical shout out to our maintenance team. They did complete the planting of the flowers in the whiskey barrels and the town-owned flower beds. This is obviously a busy time of year for them, especially with all the rain we've been having of trying to fit in mowing. It certainly is helping water the new trees and flowers. And then last week, Mullins Markings was in town to do street painting and striping work. That was on June 3rd. They did work in a variety of areas, including the pool parking lot, the non-track side of the Penn Place parking lot. And just as a reminder, the side of the parking lot that borders the tracks is actually the responsibility of Mark. But that work done by Mullins Markings was overseen by our maintenance supervisor, George Miller.
So, any thought to talking to Mark about it? Having them just pay for it and we do it so that the parking lot looks nice?
Yeah, the timing of everything, just in trying to get it fit in this fiscal year, I was just going to reach out to the real estate division and see if they can arrange to do that on their own.
Okay.
But if not, we normally do striping and painting work about every 2 years.
Okay.
I
It looks
just-
nice, by the way.
It does. Yeah, it does look really nice.
It does. I just wanted to thank the mayor for coordination with the other 10 other municipality mayors on that state legislation with the changes at the state government level in terms of housing and zoning, and also prospective changes at the county level. It could prove to be very important for us to be able to retain our current zoning authority. So thank you for your efforts there, Mayor.
Yeah, I'd also like to give a shout out to our town attorney, Ron Bolt, as Mayor Keller is well aware.
Yeah.
he did a yeoman's job on this task, just coordinating with the various state officials and with 11 municipalities to kind of keep everything moving forward.
Just a question, a clarification. When it says 4, is it up to 4 units that we're allowed, building with up to 4 units?
There's an interesting wrinkle. We need
Go
to, do you know the Brunswick line exception?
I think it was up to 4 units,
Well,
as I recall.
it was up to 3 units as a matter of right. So you could put a triplex on a single family zoned lot, duplex or triplex. If the lot was within 1 mile of a mass transit stop, which we are given,
Yeah.
given the Garrett Park Mark stop, you could put a quadplex, a 4-unit, and the parking requirement would be halved. I heard a rumor that the towns on the Brunswick line, which is what we are, may be exempted. We need to chase that down.
But which legislation are you referring to, Mayor, when you describe
This is the
those
so-called,
provisions?
not affordable, accessible housing strategies initiative.
Right, so,
which-
but that was never introduced as actual legislation at the council. It was
No,
a
but
proposal, right?
that's correct. But
Just wanted to clarify.
yeah, there was, instead, what was introduced was a so-called workplace housing
Right,
initiative. It does not affect directly Garrett Park. Even Kensington, which is adjacent to one of the, that straddles one of the corridors, Connecticut Avenue, is not as affected as you might expect. I'm not sure we can bank on the notion that that will relieve the pressure long-term or something in the nature of the affordable accessible housing strategies. But
I think it was attainable.
we need to chase down the Brunswick line exception, because if that rumor proves true, it takes one of the larger objectionable aspects of that initiative off the table. We would still have to deal with duplexes and triplexes and associated, but we could impose associated parking requirements.
So we're allowed to regulate duplexes, triplexes, or quadplex with this?
Yes, those construction, the structures would still have to meet town setback requirements, for example.
Right.
And if we had, currently we have an off-street parking requirement, and we could adjust that for duplexes and triplexes. For quadplexes, we would be very constrained in introducing much of a parking requirement, unless we're let off the hook by the fact that the Garrett Park station doesn't count as a mark stop.
Yeah.
But just for clarification, so far, the county has not changed our zoning to allow
No,
duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes in our single-family zoned area. It was a proposed attainable housing strategy, but that hasn't been passed by the county council. The state level ordinance, though, would have preserved our ability to regulate even if they changed our zoning to no longer be single family, so that if we would be able to keep the same regulatory power, even if the county changed the zoning to allow more than just single families in this zone.
so our
Like open space, black coverage.
yeah, and
Mhm.
those
Right, the
those
setbacks, potentially height. We don't currently regulate height, but potentially we could.
by the terms of our ordinance, those apply to single family construction.
Right.
because that's all we were given authority to do by the state in the legislation in 1993 and 2006. So if that remained on the books, and if there were something on the nature of the attainable housing that became legislation, we would have the anomaly of our single-family homes having to adhere to our setbacks, whereas the duplexes and triplexes could go to the more permissive county standard.
Right.
The effort that was successful at the state level was to remove the single-family zone qualification from our 1993 and 2008, 2006 enabling legislation. So if you look at the ordinance that you passed earlier this evening, after having been introduced last month, in anticipation of the success of that legislation at the state level, it removes the reference to single family.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
2025-5.
Yes.
Okay. So this would now apply
So
to,
look, for example, at page 6
right,
of that handout, about halfway down on the page, it strikes on land zoned for single family residential use,
right.
so that those standards will apply whether it's a single family or a duplex or a triplex. Okay?
Gotcha.
So long buildup, that legislation passed. It was spearheaded by Mayor Irene Lane of Chevy Chase, and Barb is correct, our own town council and others lobbied heavily for it. And it was signed into law. So that's just one little worry we don't have if the county council indeed returns to something on the notion, on the order of the attainable housing regime.
Would the council in the future, should the council in the future address the height limitation question?
That's for the land use committee to recommend. And my personal opinion would be absolutely.
Right.
It's primarily the manner in which height is calculated.
Right.
35 feet is not in and of itself an unreasonable height. But if you manipulate the terrain on a given lot, you can get an effective additional half story. Okay. That, and not to anticipate anything, but that and potential discussion of council assignments and the like will await further efforts to find a mutually available date, which is on, I'm afraid, Barbara's rather long list of things to do. We'll attempt to do it before the snow flies. And again, I apologize for the long answer to your question, but yes, height would be something that we are empowered to do, and I think we should probably take advantage of that.
Right. Because if you're building a fourplex, you could make it really, really tall.
All right, the next order of business is considering whether we wish to meet in August. Historically, with the exception of 2008, when we were embroiled in a litigation and met weekly, we have taken a hiatus in the month of August. We can do this by consensus. Let's just talk about it.
Well, I'd like to put out there that I'm not sure it's always been in August. I'd like to put out the option of either July or August to be the month skip, because different council members take their breaks at different times.
Okay. Uh,
Can,
does anybody have a calendar? We introduced an ordinance tonight, which needs to be voted on within a certain number of days or it expires. Barb, do you have the ready answer to that?
I'm just looking it up.
Today is the 9th. If we omit June, we would be meeting the 11th of August.
If we skip July,
Yes, we would have to reintroduce the parks ordinance. Barb, am I correct in that?
Yeah, it's no more than, at any regular special meeting held, it has to be not less than 6 or more than 60 days after the meeting at which it was introduced. Is there 60 days?
That would be the only
I think we might be within. the-
immediate effect. Barb, can you think of anything else?
is there an amount of time we have to notify people? Is it just 30 days or something? Don't we have like a notification that we're not going to meet? We have a,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
there's not a set time. We just
Oh.
try to let people know.
it's the second Monday,
Let's
so
see.
that would be the 7th of July or the 14th of July.
No, it would be the 14th of July,
Right.
yeah, or the 11th of August.
Both work for me, so I'm in 10 days.
Yeah. I'll be out of town on the 14th, so my preference would be to skip July, but I'll go with whatever is preferred by the group.
I'm available for both July and August.
Would be more than 60 days. Yeah, Mayor Keller, in answer to your question, if we waited to the regularly scheduled meeting on August 11th, it would be more than 60 days by my
Okay.
count.
Does the staff have any thoughts about their availability in July or August?
I don't. No. Yeah. No, we'd be fine. Neither one of us.
Okay, well, we have one clear preference for skipping July, right?
Right.
Right. She was
Do
an
we
item.
have- Do we have enough work that we shouldn't take a skip? Should we keep meeting every month and not take a skip month? I'm just wondering how much work we have in front of us to accomplish.
Barb, I'll defer to you on that.
Trying to think, I mean, most of the big things have been done. As the mayor noted, I think if you skip July and go to August, then you just would need to reintroduce the ordinance because more than 60 days would have passed.
Would that mean then?
It would
the
mean,
ordinance is reintroduced in August
and
and
then
not
adopted in
Yeah,
September. Mhm.
sort of a shame to.
And then comes into effect
so
21 days after.
21 days
it
after.
would be effective in early October.
What's
And-
the current, I'm sorry.
Hmm?
What is the current sense of the scheduling of the additional work sessions actually that we've been
Yeah,
discussing? 'Cause-
basically what happened is I bombed out on the original set of dates, and when I would pick up the dates for the remainder of July, there was no other date after July 7th that all of you would be in town, would be available in the month of July.
But I think we're all here July 14th,
I'm not,
except Garrett.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fine with me if we hold the regular council meeting that day, especially, I don't want to hold up the ordinance being able to be restricted, but I was just curious because in the end, we are going to still meet the same number of times over the summer. That was my point of bringing that up. There would
Yeah.
be a special meeting at some point and we'd be skipping a regular meeting based on the current
Right.
plan to have a work session.
I wouldn't agonize too much over the ordinance. There's no reason POSCO can't go on meeting, doing whatever they like. So is everybody neutral on it except? I'm okay with either.
We're
Everybody's
probably the
here.
wrong ones to ask, you know, we're the eager new.
Well,
I'm here, let's meet, but.
you're
I
you're also the
prefer-
ones with kids still at home, so.
Well, this is sometimes a welcome break from that.
My feelings won't be hurt if
Yeah.
you choose to skip August instead of July. Don't worry, I just won't be there in July either way.
Can you log in?
No, I won't be able to.
Okay.
I'll be in a different time zone that
Okay.
will not allow for that.
You want to skip July and just go to August, Mayor? We just need a decision.
You want me to make an executive decision?
Well, I can throw in 2 cents. I would say that given that Jerry Lee has something in July and I could conceivably have something in July,
Let's
I'll
do,
throw a
all right,
thing
So,
in for
we will-
July.
we will give immediate,
Skip July.
all right, so it's the consensus of the group that we will give immediate notice of the omission of the July meeting. We'll have a meeting, a regular council meeting on August 11. And we'll keep plugging away at finding a time to discuss broader land use issues and council assignments and related issues. All
Thank
right?
you for your consideration.
That's fine.
Italian cookies will come your
No
way.
no good deed goes unpunished. The boundaries study.
All right. Well, as they say, I'm the last thing standing between us and being adjourned, so I'll make it very quick. Mayor Keller and I, along with Nikki Fury, were able to jump on a call and go through the 4 current options that we have. There is a meeting tomorrow night, which I will be going to, of the Citizens Association. But I think,
It is,
Here, Norman.
but the meeting is town.
yeah, it's tomorrow at 7:30, I think.
7:30.
And I think what we really want to understand better is the largest concerns that folks in the community have. We want to be able to present a unified front when we consider all options. This is going to affect anyone whose kiddos are coming up. I will say that 2 of the 4 options split Garrett Park down the middle at Strathmore, which is, from what I understand, is one of the biggest, if not the primary concern, to have our community split up, half going to Woodward and the other half to WJ. That's a concern, but it's certainly not the only concern. So I think tomorrow's discussion will be able to kind of create an open environment where we can air some of those concerns. And the timing is such that, you know, we want to be able to present that over the next couple of weeks to Montgomery County. They are very much in the exploratory phase. But hopefully we will be able to present a united front in exploring some of these options. So more to come on that. Mary, you were in that call with Nikki. Anything that I left out?
No,
That's okay.
no, I think that the long game here is that the town submits its own letter over all of our signatures. But that we coordinate closely with the parents who are working on it so that they are complementary.
Yeah, I was at the Progressive dinner and spoke to a lot of people, including Steve Welker, and I think the overarching concerns are we don't want the kids on buses going far away like Wheaton, A, and B, we want wherever the kids go as a group.
Mhm.
So Garrett Park should go as an entire group because of the kids on the swim team and the
Mhm.
elementary school and the daycare and all the teams and everything else that goes on here. We just want to keep the cohesiveness of the town intact.
Well said, much better said than I did. I think there, creating this artificial line of demarcation is just is not helpful because you've got so many different, community groups where we're an aggregate and then splitting them in half. And some of these are, it's not just high school, it's, going all the way back, they call it articulation. So some of it goes all the way back to elementary school. So now you've got kids who are together and, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts and everything else, and then they're artificially
Right.
bifurcated. So I
We
think
don't want that.
we don't want that.
And two of the four
Mhm.
maintain Garrett Park.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Two of actually, there's only, Garrett Park Elementary. Or maintain it
Like
together.
Garrett Park as a unit.
That's right. Option one is kind of almost a status quo. It's Garrett Park Elementary, then it's Tilden, then
Right.
it's Woodward. It wouldn't be WJ, it would be
So
Woodward.
nobody would go to WJ.
WJ is the only, that is part of the option two, which splits us down the middle.
Right.
South side of WJ and north side to Woodward. But yeah, two of those options, in two of those options, it's WJ, and Woodward, North Bethesda and Tilden,
Mm.
right? So it's not just high school, it's middle school as well, which is concerning. And yeah, I think you're right that, the Wheaton, the
It's a bad idea.
busing.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I was thinking that was gonna be one of those where it was like the old answer to the question, you got the 4 multiple choice. You usually throw one out immediately, and that was, I think,
Yeah,
because that makes no sense.
There's a sense that option 3 will fall of its own weight, but I think just as a tactical matter, I have a preference for submitting affirmative things, so I think we weigh in favor of option 1
Mhm.
and then spend the entire rest of the letter explaining why 2 and 4 don't work.
And are these options, I know they're very early in the sort of
yeah.
community engagement process, but is there sense that it will be one of these 4? Or,
No,
Yeah,
okay,
I think that's very much I think it could very much
so
be,
that might impact
yeah,
with that,
yeah.
the timing of when we
Yeah.
want to lock in our recommendation.
When is Woodward opening?
27.
Fall of 27.
Yeah.
Not until then. Okay.
Mhm.
And
It's open now. It's
It's-
just being used as a transitional school for Northwood.
I mean, when they're gonna
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah, fall of 27.
Hope they have a hockey team.
Be better.
Anything further in the way of new business? All right. How pleasant. We are adjourning exactly on time. Motion to
Yay.
adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Schedule.